Huddle with paperplusoffice.co.nz, your local office supplies specialist, now open for business.
Back on the Huddle, Jock Anderson from the NBR. Hello, Jock.
G'day, Larry.
Cameron Slater from Whale Oil. Hello, Cam.
Hey, Larry.
Jock, issue number 1, the quake series of aftershocks, the central part of the country. Last thing this country needs is another big one. How do you see it all?
Do you want me to go first? Well, the most interesting thing I thought in relation to the quake is the response from what they call the Green Taliban. And I think the Whale will know quite a bit about this. You know, they couldn't wait to get in, with dire warnings about how, if we go ahead with oil exploration in this area and our quake's going to ruin the beaches and all that sort of nonsense. I mean, you would think that in these times when nobody really knows when another one's going to hit or whether it's going to be a big one or whether Wellington's going to be wiped off the face of the planet, that, people who actually want power in New Zealand, as the Greens do, would take a deep breath and step back and resist the temptation to make political capital out of unfortunate incidents.
What's going on here, Cam? Gareth Hughes politicising the quake, is he?
No, absolutely. He's posted an image on his Facebook of the areas that have been let for tender for exploration only. You've got, him going on, just last week that fracking apparently causes earthquakes. Well, we haven't had any fracking in this area, and yet we've got an earthquake. And then on the flip side of it, if you have an earthquake, well, we can't possibly have an oil well there because it might pollute the sea. But there's no evidence of any earthquakes ever causing any pollution or oil wells to leak or anything like this. It's just scaremongering from the Green Taliban, ably assisted, I might add, by the fools in the Labour Party who, in between coup plotting, are trying to do mixed messages as far as oil drilling goes. You've got them running around in Taranaki with Shane Jones saying, yes, we all support drilling and oil exploration. You've got Grant Robertson saying we want to ban this sort of thing happening in Cook Strait and off the Wellington coast, exactly the same as Gareth Hughes. So huge amount of politicisation by the opposition parties, and the Prime Minister looking sombre and sober, dealing with issues as they come up.
Well, Jock, the fracking, the Gulf of Mexico, all that sort of stuff, the oil drilling, it's just scaremongering, isn't it? But these quakes, the thing is that people are pretty helpless. So you can't defend against any of this. All you can do is take precautions, but you cannot do a thing.
Of course you can't. And I mean, heaven forbid that, a major earthquake, hits the country again. But, nobody can foresee this. Nobody can say, I mean, the geo science bods are saying, well, look, there might be a build-up or there might be something else happening. There's a whole series of things going on down there under the ground, under the sea, and we're just tracking it. But you can't turn around and say, look, don't go to work on Friday after 1 o'clock because there's going to be a 7.5.
Oh, there is. Ken Ring will predict that. He was on News Talk this morning claiming that he predicted this very same thing. But you're right.
I'll leave him to you, Cam.
Yeah, you're right, Jock, though. You can't predict this sort of thing, but it's a salutary lesson for the likes of Len Brown and others who want to force intensification upon us all.
Exactly.
We'll come back in just a moment. Jock Anderson and Cameron Slater on the Huddle. It's 16-6.
Larry Williams Drive with the new ANZ, the bank that gives you more.
14-6, NewstalkZB on the Huddle. Jock Anderson from the NBR, Cameron Slater from Whale Oil. Cam, issue number 2, TV3 poll. Labor dumping another 2.1%. David Shearer loses 17% in the approval rating. We had the Morgan poll last week also showing Labor dumping. How precarious is it now for Mr Shearer, do you believe, Cam?
Oh, very precarious. I mean, they had to cancel their caucus retreat, and there was a few wags, including myself, that were talking about caucus being in retreat, but they cancelled that this morning. David Shearer claims it was fog, but he managed to get to Wellington for a few photo opportunities, so I'm not sure how accurate that fog claim was. And then a lot of the the MPs were all trying to head to Wellington. They could have driven there in 3.5 hours or so from Napier. So I think there's a lot of plotting and hatching and carry-on going on. But one thing's for sure is we are seeing Labor bobbling along, at the bottom of their core support.
Jock, what do you see in this? I guess that if you're plotting a coup, a spill, you'd probably be pretty happy with the latest polling.
Well, that would depend on which creatures inside the Labour Party are doing this. I think it's significant, and Cam mentioned this earlier. He mentioned Shane Jones in Taranaki alongside Andrew Little. Now, if there were ever two guys in the Labour Party caucus who can still basically represent, I guess, what the grassroots of Labour was all about, it's these two. I mean, both of them understand wealth creation. Both of them understand the need for jobs.
Especially for themselves.
No, but, you got one with an engineering union background. You got one who's played a major role in the development of the Maori economy. Don't be surprised if you see these two guys emerge. The question's going to be, is it going to be sooner or later? And if it's later, is it going to be too late?
Cameron, issue number 3, revealed Auckland paying $1 million a day in interest, borrowing $1.2 billion a year. I know you had this the other day. The NBA had a follow-up story today. $1 million a day. Something seriously wrong with this, and this is how cities go bust. What do you see in this?
Well, I think it is how cities go bust. What we're seeing is a Detroit-like situation developing in Auckland. It's already happened further north with other councils where the debt burden simply overwhelms the ability of ratepayers to cope. And you've got an incumbent mayor campaigning saying that he's going to, bizarrely, he's claiming that rates increases are going to be kept down, but they're still increases. And the projections in those reports that have been released prior to the local body elections show that his claims to try and get them around 2.5%. And remember, that's an average. There's a whole lot of Auckland that have got 10% rates increases year on year for 3 years running. Well, those projections are shown to be well out, even rates increases just ever increasing, and we just can't keep having that.
Jock, how do you view it? Borrowing to keep rates down? I see the council payroll is $650 million.
Oh, look, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what Mayor Len wants to spend and borrow. But, Cam's right. I mean, you can keep some rates down if you keep borrowing. And, Brown and his cronies are borrowing at about 27% of the total spending of Auckland Council, I think, in the latest figures. We borrowed 27%. Now, to me, I would think that there surely must be some kind of a limit imposed by someone on how much, the councils can borrow, what percentage they can borrow. And here we are, we're talking about, tunnels under the harbour and, goodness knows what. And, the average rates figure appears to be small. The increase appears to be small, but, you get back to having massive increases in rates for Auckland's wealthy.
All right, final 30 seconds, Cameron. They have to cut spending significantly, it would seem.
Well, I mean, Jock talks about Len Brown borrowing to keep rates down. All it is deferring the rates increases. That borrowing has to be paid back. And the council has no income generation ability, save ratepayers. And Watercare has done a great job in reducing the core cost of dispensing water in Auckland, but that's just been hoovered up by the council, looking at that saving as a licence to spend the saving on other areas. It's just ludicrous, and something has to change drastically.
That is Cameron Slater and Jock Anderson on the Huddle this evening. Murray Deaker to follow. It's coming up 9 to 6.